Hey mages, welcome to today's video, and today we are looking at 5 new meta decks for Standard Best of 1 on MTG Arena. 5 decks now with foundations at the 4 point now. We're going to be looking at which some of these new cards and new decks are currently working their way up the meta and some of the mythic players are playing. And these decks all have really good stats. I choose the best ones that I can find with high win percentages, and the ones that hopefully will rank you up on MTG Arena. With that also, you always need a little bit of luck, don't you? Skill and luck, without a doubt, on MTG Arena. But without further ado, we're going to get to the first deck now. If you want to get any of these decks in paper and you want to take them to your F&M, I just always like to give my shout out to Cardmarket, where you can go and get all your card needs there. And if you feel like supporting me even further than you do by clicking on the video, I've got a Patreon. Check the link below. Anyway, let's get on to the first deck. So the first deck we are looking at, namesake was Dimir Faeries, but to me it's just more like a Dimir Tempo deck because it has 4 fairies in the deck. So it was called Fairies, this deck, but I think it maybe started off as full-on fairies when it was, in its first initial building stage, and then as it developed into a really good deck, it became more of a Dimo Tempo deck to me. I like this because it's running the new Kato, just a single of as well, so that makes it a bit easier on your crafts. Whenever a creature you control does combat damage to a player, put a loyalty counter on him. You can make ninja tokens so you can protect yourself with this 3 mana planeswalker, and then you can have up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked this turn, which is also a pretty sweet thing. And then you've got a draw and discard card option there as well. So +1 is really good. The -2 is great for just protecting it. 3 mana Planeswalkers notoriously have been pretty decent, and this one I feel like is, maybe that finds its home in a Dimir Tempo deck. Commander, it's definitely going to be played in a ninjutsu kind of deck without a doubt. This also runs a Kato, Bane of Nightmares, and this does, this is the real ninjutsu type of commander. You'll be attacking in potentially with your early plays. You got 1-drops here with your Spectral Sailor, new print, reprint, new into Standard again, but it is a reprint. Spectral Sailor, flash in, turn 1 play, turn 2 play, and then you've got the ability to draw cards with this as well. And the other 1-drop is the Spyglass Siren. So interestingly, they've both got flying, which is a little bit of evasion, which is good when you're playing a Planeswalker like Kato in this deck. So I do like the way this deck is built with some, low mana creatures flying, so you get the evasion, which then hopefully you will then for turn 3 be able to ninjutsu this in and get over the top and do a slightly bigger hit, and then use this ability to either surveil, draw cards. You can either then put the emblem on to make your ninja bigger as well. Now, what's good in conjunction with this is that Kato makes ninja tokens, so you make the 2/1 token. With this, you can give your ninjas you control +1/1 with the emblem. So these 2 Katos are working very well in tandem in this deck without a doubt. It has 4 of Flood Pit Drowner. I've really been enjoying this card recently. I like that it can, tap down a target creature opponent control, and then the stun counter makes it even better. And then you can pay 2, shuffle this back, and a creature with a stun counter on it. So you can then permanently get rid of that really annoying card, Sheoldred, anything like that, anything that's just, just going to deal you damage, Atraxa, something really good. You can flash this in and then shuffle it back in, and it won't go to the graveyard, so some of those decks can just reanimate it as well. They've got to go and find it again. Spell Stutter, bit of counter magic. We got fairies in Fairy Mastermind, so that is our 4 fairies. So like I said, Dimir Faeries is a bit loose, but I think it's more of a Dimir Tempo deck myself. And then you've got some removal with Cut Down, Go for the Throat as well. Now the trick here, Failbound Trick does make fairies, so we can potentially get another 6 fairies onto the battlefield with the Fail Bloom trick. So that will probably make it our most prominent? No, see, these are both Siren Pirates, so 7 there for, well, you're still going to be making 10 fairies in total. So yeah, maybe we can, potentially still call this a fairy deck, but I'm only, joking around there. But yeah, this can come in instant speed, make those 2 flying tokens, and when you do, tap target creature opponent controls as well. So last creature to talk about in this Dimir deck, Enduring Curiosity, is a way to flash in and then drawing cards when you're hitting with your creatures. And it's a 4/3 stat as well. You can get multiple of these on the field because they're not legendary. So it's a really, really cool card. And I think this is a really well put together deck. I really enjoyed it. I've been playing it, testing these decks out, and I've really enjoyed the Dimir Faeries. Land base, The only craft I had to make personally was Dranith Ruins. Put 2/1 counters on target non-human creature that entered this turn. Now, I've found this okay. I've not really had the chance to do the ability, so whether this is really important in the deck, it's a nice card, but I still think you could probably still win games without it. So if you want to save yourself a couple of rares, you can definitely do that. And then you've got your normal Dimir lands here, Verge, Shores, Restless Reef to attack from the ground as well, which is nice, and you get to mill opponents' cards. Be careful when you're doing that in reanimated decks though. And then you've got Underground River as well. But all in all, a very cool deck. Let's get on to the second meta deck. So this one's been chucking in some really good results, and it's Naya Aggro. So we've seen, there's Boros Aggro, Mono Red Aggro, but this is literally running green for Questing Druid, which is what makes it Naya basically. But adding the white in as well, because we've got this great reprinted card back in at Standard, Boros Charm. 4 damage to target player or planeswalker, permanents you control, gain indestructible to end a turn, so against Wraths, still no good against Exile, some full decks and stuff like that. And target creature gains double strike, because obviously we can pump up stuff here. We've got the Monstrous Rage, just a couple of them to pump up and do a little bit of damage as well. But this deck is more, it's got 19 creatures, so it's more of a creature aggro based deck with 17 instants and just the 4 sorceries as well. It's only a CMC of 1.6, so that's very low, and just has 20 lands in this deck as well. Now, we've got lots of new cards here coming in. Bolt Wave, 3 damage to each opponent, brilliant card. And then this does actually run 3 shock, but the shock replacement, Burst Lightning, is in there as well, because this is the same, 2 damage to any target, but you can pay a kicker 4 late game and then deals 4 damage instead. So just a slight upgrade on shock, but this is all about just doing damage this deck. So it runs 4 of these and 3 of these as well. More damage with Lightning Helix, more to the dome damage with Boros Charm, 4 damage to target player. It really does act like it's got a heavy burn package in this, a Boros burn package. And then it has your creatures there that can just get bigger as well with the prowess triggers of Monetary Swift Spear. And then also got Slick Shot Show Off that whenever you cast a non-creature gets +2/0. So when you're doing mass damage to opponents and you're building up your creatures as well, I mean, it's really is a very quick deck and just get the damage done before opponents manage to stable out in their mid-range decks, and then hopefully, some of the bigger decks like Domain and stuff like that, this can squeak underneath. Now, Streaming Nemesis is a great card. If it's dealt damage, the opponent can't then gain life for the rest of the game, which is really sweet, and it's another hasty creature that can come down, and one that they don't really want to block. So this is good against Lifegain types of decks, but yet again, Exile, plenty of that around can deal with that, but still a very sweet card for me. The Questing Druid, the green of it, whenever you cast a white, blue, black or red, so we've got white and red in here to build this up. Seek the Beast is brilliant as well, 2 mana instant, exiling those top 2 cards, and as you can see, we generally play that a lot of the times because the CMC is very low, 1s and 2s, and then just the 3 drop with the Screaming, so we could potentially play this in the same turns and stuff like that, so with all those instant spells in the deck. Land base, Bivouac is 2/2 red, white Ox, that can just build up a creature as well when it attacks. And then you just your usual dual lands here, Inspiring Vantage, Forge, Verge, there's a couple of, and the Gorge. So all in all, a very aggro deck, this one. I do like Naya Aggro, and I think it's, it is a little bit of a different build because it's adding new cards in. You normally see Boros Aggro, but I do like adding Question Druids, but this gives you the ability to play the Question Druid, which a lot of the Boros decks run this just for the Seek the Beast and can't actually play the creature as well. So yeah, very good deck, and one that I've been playing and enjoying a lot. We now have a poison deck back in the meta and definitely getting some wins. 10 poison counters or more needed, so different to Life where you need 20. Mainly because Finn the Fangbearer has been reprinted, so you're going to be seeing this a lot on the ranked ladder. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. Mixing that in with the toxic creatures like Venerated Rot Priest, you've got like a winning deck on your hands. These are very good creatures to have and to play with, and very awkward as well, because when you're targeting they still get that poison counter, and then you're looking at ways to build up that deck as well and creatures in there. It runs a single Tiny Bones the Pickpocket, Deals combat damage to player. This is a nice Death Touch creature. Surprised there's only 1 in there. But I suppose it was going to be 4 Bilious, and then it just went 3 and 1 for the adding the single Tiny Bones. Tiny Bones you don't really need 4 of, because if you haven't got it in the graveyard, it's, you know, sometimes it's just that 1/1 Death Touch and just get easily picked off with a cut down. But, you know, for later game when stuff might be in the graveyard, then this can get through with its Death Touch potentially, but normally they will take the block. Because they don't want you playing their stuff, basically. Other creatures, Servant of the Stinger is in there. When this deals combat damage to play, if you've committed a crime this turn, you may sacrifice it, search your life for a card, put it in your hand, which is a nice way to go and search through your deck in this. But nice 1/3 stats for 2 mana, so can deal off with a lot of the early red decks as well. We then have the Blanchback Stalker, Toxic 2, getting double those poison counters in there. When you've got Fang on the field, when a Death Touch does combat to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters as well. So wins can be very, very quick with this, and they have to deal with Finn on the field without a doubt. You then got some nice bigger creatures here. Bloated Contaminator, typical green creature, 3 mana, and with bigger stats, 4/4, Trample as well, Toxic, deals combat damage, proliferate, like your typical green above stats kind of creature in there. We've seen this for a while. And then for me, one of the best cards in Standard at the moment, Glitter Sunslayer, First Strike, Death Touch, destroying enchantments. We know all those overlords are constantly out there, so this can deal with them potentially as well. So this is in there as a 2-off. Top end just as a single Vraska, maybe to finish out games as well. If games do go long, you're playing more of the control decks, and you've got a nice big Planeswalker as well to help do stuff with us, which is, you know, pretty sweet. Go to the rest of the spells. Toxic Analysis, target creature gains Death Touch, so any of our creatures that don't have Death Touch, we can then add this in and maybe a bit of lifelink. Whisper of the Dross is a proliferate spell, which, you know, is working very well. And there's a lot of a lot of token decks in Standard at the moment, and this can certainly deal with them. And the proliferate is really sweet as well. Because if you've got that first poison counter in, you're then just proliferating up. 2 little protection spells here, Raw Treatment and Snakeskin Veil. Just 2 little ways to protect. Normally Venerated Rot Priest is normally the way, but you've now got Finn the Fang, so you want to be protecting that as well as much as you can. Now, with the amount of removal that is in Standard, it's good to see something like Unnatural Restoration in this build, where you can return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So that means we can get back Finn, because that will be targeted a lot. Same as the Venerated Rot Priest. This gives us a couple of cards to be able to get them back as well. So, yeah, I do like that. Mirrex, just a single Mirrex in there. I was probably expecting to see more than that, maybe 1 or 2, but it feels like 1 is good, so it's going to save you a rare there, because this has been doing well with, you know, with the deck as is. So, you know, I'm not looking to upgrade or change anything, but if you feel like you want another one, I don't think it will harm the deck too much either. It's just really good in making those toxic tokens, and then just a lot of basics, a couple of blooming and a couple of waste. So to me, I'd probably add another couple of blooming just to change that, but I like, you know, showing you the decks as they are. But this is nice on the land base because it does work. It is getting a good percentage. It's being played in Mythic, this deck, so you know it's a really good deck in the meta at the moment. And yeah, I think Poison could be a very sneaky way to get a few wins and definitely get some quick wins and maybe some quick quits. Last 2 decks, and here we have a mono white Lifegain deck that has just did so well in some recent gameplay that I saw. And I just see the stats in this deck was really impressive. Had a really high win percentage. It's just very low to the ground, as we can see. CMC is 2.2. It's got 34 creatures in this deck. This deck is all about creatures. It's all here. So if you love a heavy creature deck and don't like playing the spells type decks or control or anything like that, this will be the deck for you to play. We get a lot of good creatures in here. This one as well, Hinterland Sanctifier, that you will all have in your things. So this is one of the cards that I think was given when the set come in and got all those mass amount of cards at the start of the set. I think this was one of them. Hinterland Sanctifier, whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. Healer's Hawk, Lifelink. It runs a single Leonin. I've seen more of these in there, but this just runs a single one. Beginning of combat, if you control 3 or more creatures, gets +1, end of turn, you gain 1 life as well. So you really want to be smashing down all these life linkers early, like the Lurker Bait and everything like that. And then the idea is then with this deck is to build up loads of life, and then you'll be hitting targets like Ajani's Primate that will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And Excellence Channeler as well. The Channeler will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we've got 2 creatures now with Ajani's Pridemate coming back into Standard, and now with the Essence Channeler, it's going to make some really big creatures for opponents to deal with. And the Lifegain for decks playing the aggro decks and red decks, if you just get started, they're using their burn spells on your early creatures because they're quick mono red, but if you start getting a few of these down, then those life just starts piling up, and then cards like Ajani's Pridemate and Channeler are just out of the view of their removal that they have because they're just so big, and they generally don't run loads of creatures, and they have to block. You've got the removal in Shelter by Ghost to give further lifelink, +1/0 and a Ward 2. Great for turn 2 play. You've got your turn 1 play with any of these 1-drops, and then getting rid of the Heartfires, the Monasteries, anything like that, the Embers. Then they have to use 2 mana spell to get rid of the creature normally, +2 for war, so that's 4 mana. And sometimes they keep very greedy hands, the aggro decks, like two land hands and stuff like that. Sometimes even 1, it's crazy, because they can win off 2 lands. But yeah, this deck I really do like, and I've really enjoyed practicing with this one. Linden's back. Vigilance, whenever a white creature you control attacks, you gain 1 life. So sometimes just attack in. You just have to do it. These will get absolutely massive as you attack in. Even if these are going into big blockers, you're gaining so much life, and then you're going to just make huge creatures. Card draw with the Innocence, all the creatures power 2 or less. There's loads of them in this deck when they come in. All those plethora of 1-drops, and then you've got Channeler and obviously Pridemate when they initially come in. And then searching through the deck, looking for those creatures, you have the Convoke with Knight Errant. You will be getting this down early with all those 1-drops. And then you'll be looking at top X, and you're going to have, with the amount of creatures, what did we say? Was it 34 creatures? You're going to be getting those hits. Basic lands, 22 basic planes in there, nice and easy. I might add a Demolition Field myself when I play this more, just to deal with those creature lands that I always seem to come against that are always awkward. But yeah, love the mono white Lifegain. Mono white Lifegain, that's hard to say. But yeah, I would give this deck a go if you can. Looks very fun. Last deck we have that's doing super well. It's like a Boros burn deck. It's Boros Aggro. Bit like the Naya deck, but runs a couple of different cards. Obviously, the main one is Heartfire Hero. You're going more into building stuff up with the Monstrous Rage. And then you have Sheltered by Ghost making an appearance in this deck, which I think is perfect because this is probably one of the best uncommons been printed for ages. Exile and target non-land permanent, then making it harder to deal with, putting the ward on. Then you get +1/0, and then you get lifelink as well. So yeah, great card, putting it on early, getting rid of clearing the way. Ember Challenger coming in, Manifold Mouse to give things trigger your Challenger because it's a mouse, and trigger your Heartfire Hero because it's a mouse. This one went for the upgrade, no shocks in here, Burst Lightning because it's just simply better. With the ability of a kicker late game to do an extra bit of damage, 4 damage. Of course, Boros Charm now being reprinted is going to be in this burn type deck as well. And then 4 of Helix. I do like this deck. This deck has been very good for me, consistent. I've only played about 5 games and I went 4-1 with this. And that was in Platinum. So the deck I gave it a try and it's very good. If you do want to see gameplay of some of these decks, let me know, because gameplay videos don't get loads of views, but I'm always asked for them, so it's always like a strange thing to do. But if you want to see any of these, put the deck down below that you'd most like to see. And if I get enough response to it, I will record some gameplays as well of some of these decks on the ladder. Still, the aggro package of the Swift Spears. Don't know why that's going like that. Maybe it's because I haven't got a 4th one. No, I have there. And then Slick Shot is, of course, is going to be in here because of all the spells like your Burst Lightning, your Monstrous Rages, and your Charms and your Helix can all trigger these. And when you're giving them double strike on certain creatures or trample with the Manifold Mouse, you can get over the top and just win games with this deck. It's just such a really good deck. 4th Ram Portal in there. Helps with the mana a little bit. You don't run any planes in this because we got Bivouac. We got this that can come in obviously as a planes as well, and Vantage and Forge. So you don't need any basic planes for the 12 cards that you do run. And it's not stopped it at all. You don't really need those planes at all. You've got plenty of ways, 4, 8, 9, 10, potential 14 of your 20 lands are tapping for white. So that's perfect. It's fine for three cards. But yeah, this has been the 5 new meta decks. Some same, but with a little change in there. And definitely some newer ones like the Poison, the Mono White Lifegain, the Dimir Not So Fairies deck that I really do like as well. And of course this one. But let me know which deck you're going to play and which one you're going to take to the ladder and rank up with. Come back and tell me once you've played with it. Has it been good for you? Has it been bad for you? It's all indifferent sometimes what you match up against. And you, obviously, you know, the luck that you do get and you do need with Arena. But these decks have definitely been doing well and should hopefully take you to those higher ranks. Thanks for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it. You lot take care and I'll see you on the next one.